to another video. Today, thanks to the help of Kyoto Ninja and Samurai Museum Experience, I'm going to be going through with you today a simplified version of Japan's hierarchy, the feudal or caste system. Now, of course, always at the very top of this system is the emperor. The Japanese imperial family were believed to be direct descendants of the sun goddess Amaterasu, so no one really wants to pick a fight with those who are related to a god. Today, this makes the Japanese imperial family one of the longest standing royal families in the world. This is over 2,500 years of the same bloodline, even to this very day. But the real power would be passed on to the shogun. The first shogun, Minamoto no Yoritomo, who started the Kamakura period, also managed to convince the emperor that ruling over the whole of Japan was a lot of hassle. And he said, why doesn't the shogun do all of that from now on? Of course, the emperor at the time thought it was a great idea. He still got to be an emperor, lived in a nice palace, but now he could relax, feed the fish, and would be letting the shogun do all of the hard work from now on. The problem this caused was that nobody believed the shogun to be descended from a god. So anyone who wanted to now take over the whole of Japan, all they would have to do is kill the shogun and take his place. At times in Japan's history, the country was broken up into over 140 different regions or states. Each of these was ruled by a daimyo, or feudal lord. Many of the famous characters from Japan's history, such as Oda Nobunaga, Tokugawa Ieyasu, and Lord Asano from the famous story of the 47, they were daimyo. Daimyo were often in a struggle for power against each other, and even often trying to take the title of shogun for themselves. Particularly during the famous era of the Sengoku Jidai, Japan's warring states period. A daimyo's power was dependent on how close their relationship was to the shogun or to the emperor themselves. This would create a ranking system even within this high level of ruling. There could be higher ranking daimyo who would control more honour, more support, more money, and of course have better leverage over those in a higher rank than them. There were also smaller, less powerful daimyos who again would have to spend most of their time on their defensive, trying to protect their lands, rather than a quest for more power like many of the other larger daimyos were. For a daimyo to be able to control their lands, they would have to hire the samurai. The samurai would act as the guards, the police, the army, and everything in between, often also holding positions within the politics and government that they were serving. Everyone from this rank upwards, they were also considered to be samurai, so at times more than 10% of the population of Japan were samurai. Even today, nearly 5% of all Japanese people are still able to trace their lineage back to that of samurai families, and many of them will also be holding down regular jobs rather than training to master the sword. Within the group that held the title of samurai, this was also broken down into at least 3 rankings. The Jokyubushi, who were high-ranking samurai and would display their rank in several different ways, one of which was being allowed to wear the sword flat in their obi. A middle-ranking samurai, Chukyubushi, they would have to tilt their sword to at least a 40-degree angle. And then the lowest ranking of samurai, the Kakyubushi, would have to tilt their sword to at least a 70-degree angle. This was done in order to be polite to higher-ranking samurai. For a low-ranking samurai to draw their sword from here would involve 2 movements. 1, 2. A high-ranking samurai whose sword is already worn flat, this only requires 1 movement. 1. Much quicker, much easier for a high-ranking samurai to draw their sword first. This was so that they stood a better chance if a lower-ranking samurai would break the rules of their society and try to pick a fight. Below the samurai are the ronin. Now, technically, a ronin is still samurai. They would be allowed to carry the 2 swords of the samurai and wear many of the same clothing. The ronin would also mostly follow the code of Bushido as well, the samurai's code of honor. But the ronin, they have no master, no clan to serve, and so they would be forced to sell their skills to those who are willing to pay them. Many samurai would rather commit seppuku than bear the shame of losing their title as samurai and becoming ronin. Many ronin would also become criminals and so became associated with a lower level of society, making it a great stigma to carry the title of ronin. Below even the ronin are the peasant classes. Now, starting here with the farmers and fishermen. They were considered low and dirty, but they would provide food, which is something vital for all levels of society. So they were considered a higher ranking, low class. They were providing something important for all levels of society. Below the farmers and the fishermen are the craftsmen. Now, this was considered a dirty profession and often a lot of hard work. So these people would often be unclean and they would smell. So they were always kept lower. But again, craftsmen, they make very nice things for those of higher ranking. So again, they were considered above other classes. The final class is, of course, the merchants. Now, today in modern society, merchants are probably considered even higher than the emperor. They're the ones with the money. In the olden days, this was considered the lowest form of work. They produced nothing of their own, no food, no products. They would simply take what other people had made and they would sell it as a profit. This would give these people no skill and therefore no value within samurai society. Those that were cast at the peasant level would also miss out on many of the rights and privileges held by those in a higher rank. In the peasant classes, they would not be allowed to own a horse. Much of their travel was highly restricted and they would have to get permission to leave even their home village. So a horse was not only expensive but also unnecessary, and so restricted only for those of samurai or higher rank. The peasant classes were also prevented from carrying and owning many forms of weapon, so this would make it very difficult for peasant classes to revolt again against those higher than them. And finally, the peasant classes were not even given the right to having a family name. They were considered so low and unimportant, they were not even given this basic right that would have them remembered in history, as we now know of the samurai, the daimyo, and of course shogun and imperial families. But among these lowly groups, we would also find the ninja. Now, unfortunately, against many movie myth, ninja would not actually be getting dressed up in black and sneaking into castles ready to assassinate laden with secret poison weapons. A ninja's main objective was stealing information, sabotage, espionage, and on very rare occasions, actual assassination. But the ninja would also manage to change their position in society to a natural advantage. Mostly coming from a farming class, this would allow them to wear simple, regular clothing. Rather than sneaking into a castle at night, they could wait until the next morning and almost walk in through the front doors with others going to work. And they could disguise weapons, transforming farming tools and combining them with new strategies and fighting styles to adapt them into their weapons that they could use on mission. It would actually be from kabuki and no theatre that we would get many of the myths, legends, and of course the famous ninja outfit that we all know and love today. So there we have a brief overview of the hierarchy that ruled over Japan for hundreds of generations. Of course, the system may have had minor changes and differences throughout the years of Japan's history. This is not a definitive version, and the system would be forever changing as time would go on. And again, a huge thank you to Kyoto Ninja and Samurai Museum Experience for giving me the opportunity to use their materials and to give you guys the information at home as well. So if you're ever in Kyoto, please remember, come on in, check them out. It's a fantastic place to come and visit. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to give it a like. Always hit the subscribe button and welcome to leave a comment below if you've enjoyed or if you have any further questions. I am Sherlock. 皆さん、見るありがとうございました。またで会いましょう。こんにちは、Sherlock です。And welcome to, fuck's sake. This is going to be fun. Okay. The problem this caused is bollocks. The problem this caused is the shogun was not believed to be bull sacks. Dicks on a stick. Okay. The problem this caused is that the shogun. Nobody believed the shogun was okay. It was broken up into over 140 different states. Now you're going to talk on the radio. Shh. Can I move?